guys, it's Chantel with Wildberry Quilting, and this is another Flosstube update. Now, you guys have told me that you'd like to see these happen at least twice a month, so I'm going to try to work on that. This month it did not happen that way just because things got busy here. So we're going to start out with doing whips first, and then we'll move into finishes, and then we are going to move on to new starts. So I'm going to start with this as my first whip to show you guys. This is that autumn, I think it's just called autumn, and I'm pretty sure that this is a Joy Sunday pattern, or printed cross stitch. And if you remember last time, I had filled in a lot in here, but now I've got it coming all the way down into here, and it's really starting to fill in some of those colors now. So I'm excited to see it actually start looking like a picture now. And I also got a little bit of fill in down here, well, mainly here. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. This canvas was originally extremely stiff when I got it, and I had a recommendation from somebody to beat it up. So that's what I did. I ended up taking it out of the frame, and I just kind of like, beat it all up and scrunched it up, and and it is quite a bit better now. It's still a pretty stiff canvas though. I've heard that other Joy Sundays are not necessarily that way. So, maybe I just happened to get a stiff one. Because the canvas is still very stiff, it is very taxing on my fingers to push the needle through. And I can only work on it for so long before my fingers get sore. And that's not very fun. So I feel like this is a very large amount to have accomplished, considering the fact that, it really does become a pain in the finger after a short amount of time. I have had questions about doing the printed cross stitch and how that compares to the counted cross stitch. There are definitely some pros and cons to both. I hope I'm not banging that all around on you guys. I am going to do a separate video where I'm just talking about, the pros and cons versus them and comparing them, so that maybe if you're just starting to get into cross stitch, or you're wanting to get into cross stitch, it might give you a better idea as to which one you want to start with. Or, even if you want to try both of them, and I don't think that's a bad idea to maybe just dip your toes in a little bit with both and see which you prefer. All right, so this next whip, I am just loving how it's coming along. And it is this rose. I'm really enjoying stitching this one. It has been so pleasant. And last time I did not have this rose and these leaves in here. So all of this is new, and I just added it. And if you can see right here, these leaves are actually stitched 1/1 instead of 2/1. The rest of it's all 2/1. So it's supposed to make it look kind of like shadow, and I think it kind of does. I've got a lot more of that shadowing bits to add in down through this area. And then up here, I've got some more leaves and some rosebuds to add. And I am just thrilled with this. I really am. I love the photorealistic kind of quality to it. And I think that when I'm done with this one, I'm definitely going to be starting the other one that I have that's kind of similar. And I think these are going to have to become a regular for me because I just enjoy them so much. I love this type of one. I will say one thing that I've learned, I started this in the center because I was worried with such a small piece of fabric that I might, run off the edge or something. So I did a center start, which, had me starting right around here somewhere. And I don't love starting in the center. I'd rather start at one of the edges or, maybe center bottom or something. But the very center, I find kind of confusing because there's so much going on in all directions. And it's difficult to orient myself, at least in my opinion. So I think that unless a pattern, unless I'm really concerned that I'm not going to be able to keep everything in on the fabric, then I'm going to try to avoid that center start if I can. Now, one thing that I am concerned about with this one is it feels like they might be a little bit stingy on the floss. This is all I've got left, and it looks kind of straggly. And, part of that is just because of use, but part of that is because some of these threads, some of these flosses they give you are only like half strands. So if they see that you're not going to use a whole lot of it, they'll give you a single piece of floss that is like, that's not even a half strand. That's like a quarter at best. You see how long these other ones are, and then this one ends right here. So I'm just a little bit concerned that I might run out of some of the colors, particularly like some of the greens. So I'm trying to be really, really miserly with how I am stitching it and stitching very conservatively. However, yeah, but I will also say that when you have these tiny little pieces, it makes it very difficult to braid all of these to keep them nice too. And then you end up with all of these crazy straggly bits, and I don't love that. I do love the chart though and the results. So I guess it's just something I'm going to have to get used to. Or maybe I will get them but kit them up with my own floss, and then I don't have to worry about whether they've given me enough. So that is that. And let's move on to another width. This is my car width. I keep this in the car so that whenever we're going somewhere and I'm going to be sitting there for a while, I have something that I can work on. Now, I'm not working on this while the car is in motion. I don't want to have some kind of accident, it'd be a terrible fender bender where you end up poking out your eye with a cross stitch needle, right? So that is not my goal. I will just stitch on it when I'm in parking lots. But it has come a long ways since the last time that you saw it. My little kitty cat has a head now and a little yellow eye. He's just missing a little pink nose. And then the kitty portion will actually be complete once I do that nose. But as you can see, I've been working on the basket and I've gotten all of these vines done. And I've actually been stitching this this is not DMC flosses. I've been using these mulberry silk flosses that I got on Etsy. And these were actually surprisingly inexpensive. I have not done a video on them because initially I wasn't sure that they were going to be something that I really wanted to talk about, because I don't want to recommend something to you guys that I don't feel comfortable in with, something that I don't like. but I have figured, and initially I was struggling the needle on the floss. It was like I take a stitch and the needle would slide right off the floss, and it was very frustrating. I did figure out a different method of securing the needle to the thread to the needle, and I like that a lot better, and I haven't had to rethread my needle at all since then. So, other than changing colors and running out of thread, but as far as it just slipping off, that has not been an issue. So I'm really happy with that method, and I will definitely be using it anytime I'm working with a slippery floss, whether that is this stuff or, rayon flosses or whatever. And I can do a video on that if you guys would like. In fact, I probably will do a video on that because I think it's a great method. I had found it on a different YouTube channel, and I'm not sure if I can remember who it was who had given the tutorial for it. But if I can figure it out, I will link her as well when I do that video. All right, so that is that one. And I am definitely messing up and stuttering a bit through this video because this is the third time that I have filmed this. The first two times I had issues with the audio giving out, and it's now bedtime, but I'm doing this and I'm tired. But that's okay because I want to do this. So next up, we have, technically this falls into the new start category, but I'm showing it here because it's also a whip and it is my fabulous house for this month. So I kind of always put this into the whip category because I only show it a couple of times, and yeah. As you can see, I've gotten a really good start on this. It is the Hobbit house, although right now mine is starting to look more like a Hobbit house. For a while there, it was looking like a Hobbit jail because I had these bars in, but then the other colors, the other parts of the wood, I did not have filled in yet. So I just had what looked like bars in front for the door, and it looked like a Hobbit jail. I'm very relieved to see it is starting to look more like a Hobbit house, though. It is much more welcoming. Now, I will say this was a nightmare. Oh my goodness. I don't know whether it was the chart, the size of fabric, or my brain, or a combination of all three. And honestly, it was probably a combination of all three. But this area right through here, like with all of these viney, rooty areas, I stitched that and it was wrong. It was all wrong, and I had a whole bunch of stitches in there, and I had to go through it and I had to frog them all. And then I restitched it. I thought I had it correct, and I got a ways into it, and then I had to go back through it and refrog them all. So I had to do that like 3 times, and it was horrible. It, part of it is because these little viney roots, although it doesn't look like it, they were just very difficult. I think part of it because of them being such similar colors, because you've got like 2 or 3 different colors of these roots through here. And the colors are so similar. And on the chart, although the symbols are very different, it is a color chart, and those two symbols are in the same colors. And with the flosses being the same colors, or very similar colors, I think it just messed with my mind, and I would get confused between the two sometimes, and that would mess me up. And of course, with these little roots, you also had a lot of 2, 3, 2, 2, 2, 4, 3 stitching that you would be doing, and it got confusing, and it was very difficult to get off just one, and then that would mess up. It would end up taking you so far out of the way that you couldn't just fudge it into place. And it's not perfect, but it looks very much the same as what the picture looked. So I think that's a win, and I'm just relieved to be out of this area. Now, when I started this, I started down here at the gate, and I stitched up and around this way, and then I started stitching into here. And I think that's where I got into trouble, was doing it that way. If I was going to offer advice, I would say, it's fine to stitch the border, the vines and the gate and everything, but then start up here and work your way into like the roof of this little house, and then get to the door area and do all of these pebbly bits and stuff. It's a lot easier to orient yourself once you've gotten this frame and these pebbly bits into place. And then you can make sure that you're where you need to be before you go through and add all of these scraggly little roots that are hanging off. That would be my advice. Now, I still have, it looks like I've gotten so much done on this, and the stitching feels so dense through here. It's almost like carpet, but I still have a lot left to do. There's supposed to be some little animals down through here. I've got to finish these flowers that go all the way around the border, which actually was a lot of fun doing these flowers, which is why I saved them, because I did these to try to help orient myself, and I enjoyed that so much that I decided I would save the flower parts as like a reward once I got this mess under control. So I've got to finish the flowers, and I've got to finish the little animals. And there's a whole nother little area of the house, like another little room that comes off over this way. And I still need to do that. And of course, filling in my jail door. But I am pretty happy with it. Now, I will say, with all of the craziness, frogging on 20 count is, yeah, I liked working on the 20 count Ada. I did not like frogging the 20 count Ada. And due to all of that, I definitely have a few knots on my back. I tried to do the best I could to keep it all under control and rein it in. There were a few knots that I've tried to tack down with other stitches though, but I don't think it looks too bad on the back. And it is what it is. The back's not on display anyways. That's just, it's going to be hidden. We don't have to worry about the back. And in case you're wondering, I do love this Hobbit house being on this green fabric though. This is a really light green fabric. It's called Peridot, and it's from Fiber on a Whim. And again, that's 20 count Ada. All right. Now, on to finished objects. I've got, let's see. Oh, and in case you're wondering, this is the bag that the Hobbit house lives in. My little bee bag. And I love it. Okay. Finished objects now. I've been keeping them in this, even though they're not projects anymore, they're finished. But that's just to kind of keep them safe until I can figure out what to do with them. And this was last month's fabulous house. I think it came out so great. I love it. The last time you guys saw this, I did not have these little seagulls done yet. So that is new and I'm loving it. I really am. This one came out so good, I think. And I really enjoyed stitching all these little flowers through here. And of course, the little seagulls, because stitching animals, I think, is one of my favorite parts. And if you're wondering, this is 16 count topaz from Fiber on a Whim. And I have to say, stitching on the 16 count has been my favorite so far. I really, really enjoyed the 16 count Ada. I think more than the 20 count. And I don't know if that's just because of not having to, the frogging is easier on 16 count. But I will say that my eyes will kind of get fatigued after a while with the 20 count. And then, by the time it's evening time and I'm pulling that out to work on, it's starting to look kind of blurry. So I don't have that problem with the 16 count. And that kind of makes me lean towards sticking with the 16 count. Oh, I did forget to show you. I actually did something extra to this one. I added my signature. I don't know if you can see where it's at, but it's right here in the corner. And let me turn it this way so you can see it. It is just my name and the year, and it has a little honeybee next to it. I don't know how well it's showing up on camera. In real life, when you look at it, you have to kind of look at it and pay attention to it, try to read it in order to read what it says. It isn't something that you're going to be able to spot across the room and be like, oh yeah, that says this. You kind of have to put a little effort into reading it. So I don't know. Might be a good thing or a bad thing, but I might have to go back to the drawing board on what to do for my signature. I've been using this book that I got off of Amazon in order to try to draw up ideas for my signature. You can see there's some of what I've been working on. I've got a couple of other little things in here, like these leafy pattern things that I came across that I wanted to remember. But yeah, I was just kind of doodling with it and seeing what I could come up with. And I don't know. I think this is actually the one that I decided to go with because I wanted it to look sort of like a signature, but with some kind of flair to it. I think maybe it would look better if I did it in a regular floss instead of the gold. Maybe that would make it more legible. Or maybe I just need to go back to the drawing board completely. I don't know. Okay. Now this you guys have already seen completed. this was the greenhouse of the fabulous house. Oh, and I should say the previous one was the cottage of the fabulous house. This one is the greenhouse. And I'm showing it to you again because I went through and I added that signature. I'm trying to make sure I hold it upright for you. I just wanted to kind of get your guys' opinion on this. Do you think this is adequate for the signature, or do you think that it leaves too much to be desired and doesn't look right? I'm kind of torn. And do you think that if I need to change it, do you think that possibly just picking a regular floss color and going with that would help? Now, if you were curious about this, the fabric is 14 count Night Sky from Fiber on a Whim. That's what I did that one on. All right, so those were my finishes. Let me put that up so it doesn't get messed up. And which means that next we are moving on to new starts. And I have, well, you saw one new start, but in addition to that, I have like 1.5 more. What is half of a new start? Okay, it's a new start that I haven't started on. I just kitted it up, but it's all ready to go, and I can't start it on it yet. So that's what a half of a new start is. And I will show you that in a minute. This is my other new start, and it is a real new start. And see my bag? It's a new one. And that's the fabric inside. I love this one. All right. Lots and lots of flosses. What have I gotten myself into here? Oh, goodness gracious. I've gotten myself into another printed canvas. So now I have two. And this is the one that I got from, what was it? VIP Cross Stitch. They told me to pick out a couple things to unbox for you guys, and this was one of the things that I picked out. Now, if you're wondering what this is supposed to look like, it's supposed to look like this. And I absolutely fell in love with this when I saw it. Now, I was thinking I would try to pick a place, because I'm kind of concerned about how detailed it's going to look, because it's only 11 count Aida. And I've never stitched on 11 count, but I've kind of worried that it's going to look very abstract. And I don't want that. So I wanted to kind of test it out and see how it was going to look. And I thought the best way to do that would be pick an area where it looks very detailed with a lot of color changes, and try to stitch that area so I could see if it looked like things had shape and were identifiable. And for some reason, I thought the leaves over here would be a good place to start. But as I started stitching them, I realized those leaves look very abstract to begin with, and they just kind of look like swaths of color, since they're, practically background. And I decided to switch gears and pick this orange to stitch instead as my test, because I figured this orange slice looks like a main focal point. It's very much the star of the show, besides the strawberries, of course. So this is what I had gotten accomplished on the leaves. And And then this is what I got accomplished so far on that orange slice. And it's kind of difficult to tell with all of these other colors here. So I'm going to turn it around so you can kind of get a better idea of just how much I've gotten done, which it looks so small when I turn it around. It does not look like that much, but there are definitely several hundred stitches in there already. And, you know, I'm still not sure yet. I'm hoping that by the next Flosstube video, I'm going to have more of this, hopefully the whole orange done. And then I'll really be able to gauge how this is going to look and decide if I want to continue stitching it or not. Now, do you see my needle minder? That is from the Sew Sampler box. I loved it so much, I had to pull it out and put it on here and start using it immediately. I pretty much, yeah, I was getting this ready to stitch and all kitted up with the flosses on here when that Sew Sampler box got here. So the timing was really good, and that needle minder immediately went onto my project. All right. So that, oh, and I should also say that canvas is significantly softer. I'm going to open that back up. It's significantly softer than the other one. This is not unpleasant to stitch through. I will say that I've been trying a different technique with this though. Instead of using a frame, I've actually been trying to stitch this in hand and use the sewing method. I think that's what it's called, where, you know, you're doing it all from the front and you're not pulling your needle to the back at all. Except for, of course, when you're finishing off a thread. But yeah, this has also been different for me too, because it is 3 threads that you're stitching with. So I can't really use the loop method. And that has been, from the beginning, I've been using the loop method. So that's just my starting method of choice. So I've kind of had to adjust to that. It's just full of all kinds of firsts for me. All right. The other new start. It is my spooky and sweet stitch along. And it's actually Fat Quarter Shop's spooky and sweet stitch along, but it is my first stitch along that I am doing with them. Actually, it's my first stitch along at all. I haven't done any sals. So I'm really, really excited and honored that they chose me to be able to present this and work on this with you guys. And I'm also really excited because this is, I think it's going to be a great beginner chart to work on, and it's a mystery chart. And on top of all of that, it's also free. So all you have to do is get the flosses and the fabric and you're ready to stitch. You don't have to buy the chart. Or, you know, I think that is just fantastic, and I'm really excited about that. They do have the floss packs on their website if you want to use the same flosses that they have it charted for, or, you know, you can use DMC flosses as well, and they have that there too. And the fabric is Fabric Flare. Let me look and see what it's called. It's Charcoal Dyed Effect, and it's from Fabric Flare. And that is, I bought mine as, well, I didn't buy it. They sent it over to me to do the stitch along with you guys. But I picked out 16 count Ada, and it is charted for 14 count Aida. And that just means mine's going to be a little bit smaller. I think it's supposed, the 14 count, I think is supposed to finish at like 7 inches square, I want to say. Don't quote me on that. Go look at the chart and find out. But all of that is going to be releasing in June, is when we are going to be starting this. I think they have already released, oh man, I think they have already released all of the chart information for what you need, and the materials list and stuff. And obviously, if they haven't, you can at least go and find what flosses they have. You can type in spooky and sweet on the website, and it'll come up with a floss pack, and you can see what all of the flosses are in that floss pack. But I am super excited. I can't wait to start on this, and I really, really hope that you guys will stitch along with me. I think this is going to be so much fun, and I love mystery, so yay! I hope you guys had a wonderful time, and I enjoyed showing all of this to you guys. And if you were stitching along while you were watching this, then I hope you got a lot stitched and there's no frogging necessary. Don't forget to hit like and subscribe, and I will see you guys again later. Bye!